Good morning. This is the Conscious Hour. This is September 1st, and I'll call this a red alert, and it's nothing to do about communism. It's called Wake Up. Jeffrey Sachs is going to talk about um, some information that you need to know, and then I'm going to tie this together and why it's important that you listen to this broadcast and share it with other people because what's coming, nobody's going to like. So let's watch what Jeffrey Sachs has to say. It's a segment I pulled out, but it's tied into what's coming.
Ballistic missiles, a decapitation strike becomes a possibility. So the Russians said after 2002, you have completely destabilized the nuclear arms control framework. It's in that context that the United States was pushing missile systems in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union, these Aegis anti-ballistic missile systems, overthrew the government in Ukraine, built a 1 million person or man army in Ukraine under Trump, by the way, who calls himself the man of peace. He armed Ukraine in the first term to a 1 million man army, the biggest army in Europe. And then in 2019, Trump walked out of the Intermediate Nuclear Force Treaty, basically destroying the nuclear arms control framework while also pushing missile systems and U.S. military bases up to Russia's nose. This is why we're in such a dangerous, unstable mode. And there's such lack of clarity and honesty for one moment in any of this. Trump, by the way, one of his many, many weaknesses, but one of his great weaknesses is the confusion of speaking truthfully to the American people in a speech, for example, which he never gives, versus a Truth Social post with 8 exclamation points and capital letters, which is not the same thing as trying to explain what is happening and how we get out of this. He probably doesn't have the capacity to do what needs to be done.
So this is where we're at the critical junction. We all know now, I think everybody should know now, if you don't know, that Netanyahu has nuclear weapons. On the 26th, which was last Tuesday, there was a BBC broadcast interviewing a woman in Palestine, talking about the conditions down there, etc. The reason why BBC did this story was he wanted to understand their plight, but also Netanyahu told the world, which wasn't broadcast on major networks, that the Palestinians have to be out of Gaza, that greater area there, in 2 weeks, or they're coming in. So, where we're at right now is we're at a full escalation. You need to turn on YouTube. You need to watch what's going on YouTube. Do not watch the Western media because where we're headed into right now is a full-fledged war. And Netanyahu has nuclear weapons. They just assassinated 6 people in Yemen, the top leaders. Yemen, which everybody calls a terrorist nation, and that's propaganda. It's the oldest country in the world, over 5,000 years of heritage, and they've been bombed and harassed and taken over by the CIA and all that shit forever. Because the United States military industrial complex is an expansionist machine. In other words, they go around all around the world, and what do? We cause wars. Look at our history. Go from Vietnam on. Vietnam was a lie. Every war we've been into is a lie. And we always remember after the fact. Well, we cannot wait till after the fact on this case here. And here's what's coming. Netanyahu is now moving. And if you go to YouTube, you'll see the videos. They're disgustingly gross. They're blowing everything up right now, where people are hospitals and everything, shooting people. What they're doing is the final stage of ethnic cleansing. They're going to kill as many people as they can. And then when they're ready, he gave them 2 weeks. If they aren't out, they're moving in. Okay, so what is going to happen and what's happening right now is the Houthis yesterday had the funeral ceremony for the ones they lost their leaders. And people are saying, well, that's good because they're terrorists. No, they are not terrorists. The ones that attack them are terrorists. Had Netanyahu allowed the Palestinians to live, and all the prior prime ministers allowed the Palestinians to live in their own places and be protected, we would never be here. But if you look at Israel and you think of living in a concentration camp, they put the Palestinians, let's take an area of Portland, Oregon, surround it, put barbed wire in, and that's where you live and you're Palestinian. You have to have permission to go out. This has been going on for years and years and years and years, 20, 30, 40 years. But we don't know anything about that because we're the lemmings. We watch television and the Western media only reports what they want to tell you. For example, October 7th was an unprovoked attack. That's the biggest lie that's ever been told. So what's coming right now is full escalation, which means the other countries that have joined together to say, we have to stop Israel, we have to stop Netanyahu. The other countries are huge. So we have Iran. And people, oh, it's a terrorist organization. No, we have Iran, we have Russia, we have China, and the list goes on. And they've all come back and said, we have your back. We are there and ready, prepared to support you. They have brought in all of their high-tech weapons. Now, we've seen these missile attacks. You've seen those. Actually, ABC and stuff showed a few, how fast they come in. Israel has no defense when it comes to this at all. None. Because when they strike, I still believe this, it's called the Electronic Hypersonic Intifada Symphony. And when they strike, they will take out every one of the strategic targets, every one of the assets that has anything to do with the operational control of the country of Israel. I do not believe, but I could be wrong, and I don't mind being wrong, they will not be killing the general population. They're going to take out everything that has anything to do with Israel's survival as far as operational. Now, what's Netanyahu going to do? He's trapped. He's failed. Nuclear weapons. We've never been this close to a full-fledged nuclear war in history. Never in history. Somebody says, well, what about Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I'm going to give you one little historical point. 3 days before they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, President Truman had a communique, a wire cable, talking on the telephone in the old days. Most people don't even know what those telephones look like. You pick up the mic, then you talk. And they had an agreement, Hirohito and Truman. In 3 days, they were going to sign a peace agreement. And what happened on the third day? The United States government detonated an atomic nuclear bomb over Hiroshima. 3 days later, they did Nagasaki. Why did they do that? They did it because they were warning Russia to stay out of the Pacific. And how I know this is I met a lieutenant commander who was in the field in this intelligence agency at that moment in time. And I met him in Boulder City, Colorado, when I was looking at a patented device that he had. So, folks, we are on the countdown. And there's 3 minutes left, folks. Well, Jeffrey Sachs says there's 98 seconds left on the atomic clock. So we need to do one thing. You need to pick up the phone. You need to call your congressional representatives. You need to call your people in the military that you know, and you need to tell them to stand down. They cannot afford to go forward because if they do, we will lose millions of people. This is the Conscious Hour, folks. This is literally a red alert. And it has nothing to do about communism. It has to do about the blood that's going to be shed because of greed, the fucking machine. Spread this wide, please. Thank you very much. It's our time to unite the world together for peace. How about heaven on earth? Huh? It's real simple. A global economy, everybody come together and we shut this military machine down, but we have to stop Netanyahu because he's the end of the dark side and the beast. Thanks for tuning into the Conscious Hour. Please spread the word.